The moment she said it, the world tilted beneath my feet. "I don't love you anymore," she said, her voice calm, almost clinical, as if she were reading a weather report rather than announcing the end of my life. I froze, the coffee cup trembling in my hand. For a heartbeat, I thought it was a cruel joke, that she would laugh and tell me she was kidding. But the coldness in her eyes told me otherwise. What? I choked on the words, unsure if I wanted to hear more. "I'm done, Daniel. I can't do this marriage anymore," she said, turning her back on me, as if my existence no longer belonged in the same room. I wanted to scream, beg, bargain, do anything to make her stay, but something inside me snapped. I realized there was no pleading that could undo what had been set in motion long before I even noticed. She had been gone for months, emotionally at least, and now she was simply stating the obvious. That night I packed a bag quietly. I didn't tell her where I was going. I didn't want the drama, the pleading, the questions I didn't have answers to. I left behind the life we built together, our apartment filled with photographs of trips, birthdays, quiet nights on the couch. I left behind a wife who didn't want me anymore. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of the city. It wasn't much, just a bedroom, a kitchenette, a living room where the couch sagged and the carpet had seen better days, but it was mine. Free. For the first few weeks, I felt hollow, like a part of me had been excavated and left behind with her. I couldn't eat properly, I couldn't sleep properly. Every sound from the street outside felt amplified. Every whisper of a passerby reminded me of what I had lost. And then, slowly, I began to rebuild. I found solace in work, threw myself into projects I had shelved for years. I made friends who didn't know the man I used to be, a man whose love had been rejected. I even started dating again, cautiously, nervously, like someone testing the water after falling into a cold lake. It was tentative happiness, fragile but real. And for a moment, I let myself believe that maybe life had other plans for me. But then came the first sign she was still watching. I was walking home one evening, the autumn wind biting at my face, when I saw her reflection in a shop window across the street. For a brief second, I froze. She was wearing a scarf over her hair, sunglasses too large for her face, but I knew her, knew the curve of her jaw, the way she walked. "Sarah," I whispered, my heart hammering. She didn't see me. She passed by, glancing into a cafe window as if curious about something inside. But I knew. She was following me. The next day I noticed it again. Car that seemed familiar parked down the street. Every time I left for work, I spotted her walking past the building, always pretending to be absorbed in her phone, always watching. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it, that it was some cruel coincidence. But the feeling didn't go away. One evening, I returned home to find a bouquet of lilies on my doorstep. No note, just lilies. My stomach twisted. She had never sent flowers before, never been thoughtful in that way. Now it was an ominous gesture. I didn't answer the door. I didn't call her. I sat on my couch, staring at the flowers, imagining her standing there, smiling that half smile I used to love, the one that had lured me into thinking she was my home. Weeks passed, each encounter more direct. I started noticing her at the grocery store, at the gym, even outside my office. She never spoke to me, just watched. It was invasive, suffocating. Every smile I received from a new friend, every step toward a new life, was measured against her eyes in the crowd. And then the confrontation came. Not in the way I expected, not in anger or shouting, but in quiet desperation. I came home one evening to find her sitting on my couch. My apartment. The air smelled faintly of her perfume, a scent that once made my chest swell with longing and now made it ache with rage and confusion. "Daniel," she said softly. Her voice had that old lilt, the one that used to calm me in the middle of a panic attack. "We need to talk." I stood frozen in the doorway, fists clenched. "Talk?" asked my voice hoarse. "You left me. You told me you didn't love me. You watched me disappear from your life without a word. And now you want to talk." "I know I hurt you," she said, tears brimming, unspilled, threatening to fall. "I made a mistake." "Don't," I interrupted, my voice sharper than I intended. Don't you dare act like I'm going to welcome you back into my life after everything. You don't get to walk away and then come creeping back when it suits you." She flinched, and I felt a flicker of the old empathy I had for her, the one that used to make my chest ache when she was sad. But it was fleeting. I can't stand seeing you with someone else. I need to know you're okay," she whispered, her eyes pleading. Her words made me laugh bitterly. "You think you care about me now? After all this time? You don't care about me. You care about control. About being the center of my life even when you've walked away from it." She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. I had rehearsed this moment in my head 1,000 times, imagining all the things I would say if she tried to manipulate me. "You can't have me anymore," I said finally, my voice trembling with a mixture of grief and rage. "I left because I had to survive. And now you're just stalking me, trying to undo my life because you're uncomfortable with the consequences of your own choices." For a moment she just stared at me. Then slowly she nodded, as if the truth of my words had finally pierced her armor. She didn't speak again. She left silently without another word, and I felt a strange mixture of relief and lingering sorrow. Days turned into weeks, and she stopped appearing outside my apartment. I didn't know if she had given up, or if she was planning something else. But I didn't wait for her anymore. I built walls around my heart, brick by painful brick, each one a reminder that I would no longer let someone else dictate my happiness. I started painting my walls, hanging new pictures, choosing new furniture, tiny acts of reclamation. I laughed more easily at dinner with friends, allowed myself to enjoy movies and music I had abandoned. I dated cautiously, yes, but I let myself feel again. And then one night I realized something remarkable. The fear, the ache, the shadow of her presence that had haunted me for months. It was fading. I could breathe again without looking over my shoulder. I could smile without thinking about the betrayal, the stalking, the heartbreak. Life hadn't erased the pain. Never would. But it had reminded me that survival, that reclaiming your own life, is a kind of quiet victory. A triumph over the people who abandon you without warning, the people who try to pull you back into chaos because they can't handle your independence. I would never forget her, and part of me would always mourn the marriage that had once felt like a promise. But the greater part of me, the part that had left without a word that night, the part that had rebuilt from ashes, was free. And sometimes in the silence of my new apartment, I would catch a glimpse of her reflection in a window across the street and smile. Not at her, not with her, but at myself. At the fact that I had survived. That I had lived. That I had reclaimed the life she tried to shadow. Because the truth is, betrayal cuts deep, but healing, quiet, patient and stubborn, cuts deeper. And now I was living proof.